Hey there, we are live from Midtown Comics. I am Henry, and it is Monday, so that means it is time for Midtown's Marvel Mondays, a showcase where we go through all of the different Marvel Legacy titles that are currently coming out. We go through one by one and we talk about all the different books because that's been one of the big question marks. I want to get into Marvel books. I love the TV shows, I love the movies, but I don't know where to jump in, and Marvel Legacy is a great way to do that. So we're going to talk about every single book that's here in front of me. We've got 13 books this week. So it's a really cool week, and there's a lot of diversity in these titles, a lot of different things. So we're just going to go through and we're going to get started. So, first off, we have Champions, issue number 14 by Mark Waid and Humberto Ramos. Now, this series has been really great. Mark Waid and Humberto Ramos have been handling this book since its relaunch last year. And with the Marvel Legacy storyline, it really is one of the best things that I think that the two of them have worked on. It is a crossover with the Avengers book that is also written by Mark Waid. So it's very seamless, very cool, and it's called Worlds Collide. So in this, you can of course see the Vision and Viv Vision, who is his daughter, introduced in the Tom King Vision series a couple years back, and a really cool cover by Ramos. And the series, it's like if I show you the first page, this is probably going to be some spoilers in this. I'll go light, but some of them have to be addressed. So, of course, the Vision is a robot, and he has this lovely little robot daughter. But after the events of last issue, she's been evolved into a human being. That is right. Viv Vision is now human, and it completely changes the dynamic between the characters right away. It's a crazy emotional moment for them because they already kind of have this weird father-daughter relationship. There's a lot of issues. Vision is not a great dad, to be honest. Sorry, Vision. And this definitely puts just another kink in their relationship that's really going to make it more difficult for them to bond. But it's a really cool issue. The series has been great. I've really enjoyed getting to see the champions teaming up with the Avengers because many of the champions were on the all new, all different Avengers a couple years ago that Mark Waid was writing. And seeing them all together is great, especially when you've got certain pairings such as Amadeus Cho and Hercules, who, of course, have a long standing friendship. And this is a great way to honor that with Marvel Legacy and showing off the dynamic between these two very cool teams. I highly recommend. If you're not checking out Champions, it really is fantastic. Now, as we move down, we've got our second book of the week, Defenders, issue number 7. Now, you can see a lot of, some miscellaneous blood and guts spurting out all over here. And as we open up the book, we have a recap page from Deadpool because, of course, now we are seeing multiple recap pages from Deadpool as he is now appearing in the series. Brian Michael Bendis, David Marquez, and what I actually really like, and so yeah, it's cool Deadpool's in this. He's not the main draw for this storyline, though. It's called Kingpins of New York, and Brian Michael Bendis, if you've ever read Bendis, Bendis does crime so well, and he really has a great handle on the way that these different crime families operate in New York City. So he did a really great job with that back when he was writing the Ultimate Universe. Way back when, I used to love whenever he would do a crime story, and now seeing it here is a really great dynamic for the team. But what I love more than anything in this entire issue is this sequence right here in the beginning that has Elektra facing off against Danny Rand, the immortal Iron Fist. And it's great. I also love that every time Iron Fist is in the book, he always introduces himself as, "I'm Danny Rand, the immortal Iron Fist." And it makes me laugh because that's one of the funnier things, self-awareness from the TV show. Marquez is showing off. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what kind of drugs he was on where he thought that this is insane. This is literally 20 panels of action in 2 pages. And if you look and actually take the time, these are all incredibly well rendered. David Marquez is one of the best artists in comics. I will stand by that. And this is an amazing showcase for him. I think Bendis just did it. He was like, you know what, Dave? Go ahead. Show off. Show the world what makes you the best. And he does it. This book has been really cool. If you're not checking out Defenders and you liked the TV series, this really is a good book to jump into. You don't need to be super well versed. It's on issue 7, but it's only part 2 of the storyline. And even if you didn't read the other ones, this is actually a really good issue. The first part was good setup for this, but you can jump in and I'll show off some more gorgeous pages by Marquez because this is awesome. This is really awesome. This is actually the kind of stuff that just makes me really happy. This is some of the best Bendis I've read in years, honestly. Defenders is great. Check it out. Now, I have a great familiarity with Brian Michael Bendis. I've read so many of his books over the years. He's been a huge name in comics. But a name I have not checked out yet that everybody's been buzzing about is Donny Cates. So everybody's talking about Donny Cates, Donny Cates. He just signed with Marvel. And I'm like, all right, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is right here. We have Doctor Strange issue 381. Let's show off that lenticular cover, which is very cool. We'll show off the interior art as well so you can get a cleaner look at this great stuff from Mike Deodato Jr. Donny Cates and Gabriel Hernandez Walta are now the creative team on Doctor Strange. And I don't know if you guys noticed, that's not Doctor Strange. That is right. That is Loki. The story is called Loki, Sorcerer Supreme. And so it's a completely different shift on the character. Let's show off. We got to show off. I'm gonna be showing off a lot of pages. So like I said, there is some spoiler, but I mean the story is called Loki, Sorcerer Supreme. But this is great, and I really like it, and it's really cool. What I think is funny here is that they spend some time in the bar with no doors, which if you guys have been reading Doctor Strange over the last couple years, it's a bar where all the magic people hang out, because Marvel has the bar with no name where all the goons hang out, basically. All the guys that are like the second-rate villains, you know, they drink their problems away. And the bar with no doors is where all the magicians go. So you've got Scarlet Witch, you've got Brother Voodoo, you've got all these different characters. And now, of course, you've got Loki. So he's off in there, and he's bragging, and nobody wants to hear it because he's Loki, and everybody knows he's the god of lies. So you can't trust him worth anything, you know? And there's a lot of fun at Loki's expense. They make fun of how he's a really terrible liar, even though that's kind of his entire thing is lying. And they're wise to his tricks. But it's a really great read. Donny Cates makes a great first impression. If you haven't been reading this book, it is a great way to jump in. And if you're a fan of Loki, if you like what Tom Hiddleston has done with the movies and you're looking to get a Loki fix, this is a really great way to jump into the book. Don't worry, Doctor Strange, of course, gets a lot of spotlight in this. It is his book. I know I've spent a lot of time talking about Loki, but Doctor Strange does a lot of the narration in this. And then I don't want to reveal what's up with him. He is in this book, but I won't tell you how. And it is interesting, and it's really clever, and I'm very curious to see how Doctor Strange is going to combat this new status quo, because honestly, he even kind of admits that he doesn't really know what he can do about this. Loki is rightfully the Sorcerer Supreme, so what do you do when you have actually lost your title? So it's very cool. That's the lenticular cover, and I also showed off, because I like these a lot, the John Tyler Christopher trading card covers, and if you flip them open to the back, which I'll just do that, you can see it's got all the statistics for Doctor Strange. Very cool stuff here, and it's a very good read. If you're not already on this book, this is a great way to jump on, and Doctor Strange is doing some cool stuff. Now, as we move down, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going in alphabetical order here. So Guardians of the Galaxy, issue 147, Jerry Dugan and Marcus Toe. And this book is really cool. You can see right on the cover, we have Star-Lord and my boy Richard Rider. That's right, the original Nova, the best Nova. Fight me on that. He's awesome. I am a big Richard Rider fan after all the years of Annihilation and all these crazy cosmic events, and also his own book for years, Dan Abbott and Annie Lanning. This book does him justice, and this book is actually really cool because it's doing a fun exploration of the Guardians of the Galaxy working alongside the Nova Corps. If you guys are familiar with the Nova Corps through the movies, they are slightly different in the comic books because the Nova Corps, they are an intergalactic peace force, but instead of, you know, in the movies, they're kind of like beat cops and they've got like fancy spaceships. In the books, they're crazy. They've got powers. They've got other stuff going on. And this is great because the issue literally opens up with the Guardians of the Galaxy and they're in their Nova Corps fatigues facing off against an army of Ultron robots. And you'll see right there, that is actually Scott Lang. That's right, Scott's gone cosmic, and he has joined the Guardians of the Galaxy in space, and he's using his rarely used giant ability, which he even talks about why he doesn't use it often, because he then proceeds to like pass out. So it is fun, and it is really cool. I'm legitimately super enjoying this book. It's actually been really cool. Marcus Toe, I think, is an insanely underrated artist. He's done a lot of cool books over the years. He did some New Warriors a couple years ago. He did way back when. I loved his art on Red Robin, and he is honestly, I think, just an incredibly talented artist that a lot of people have been sleeping on. And it's obvious that Jerry Dugan knows how to play to his strengths because we get some cool stuff, some great action, and this is cool too because a few years back there was some crazy stuff going on with Nova, and this is actually the first time he's really reintroduced himself to the greater Marvel universe. He had a bad fight with Thanos. Let's just go with that. And now things are okie dokie, but of course, it's kind of rough when you see a friend after a while. Sometimes they punch you in the face. He deserves it, but it's great. So now we'll move down, and we've got another hulking figure in the Incredible Hulk. I don't know who the first hulking figure. I guess Nova's got like some muscle on him, but Hulk puts him down. So the Hulk is great. It's Incredible Hulk issue 710 by Greg Pak and Greg Land. So very cool stuff, and both Gregs do a fantastic job because we get some really cool action sequences here. If you guys have seen Thor Ragnarok, which go see Thor Ragnarok if you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok because it's a lot of fun. And this is really cool because it plays with some familiar territory by returning to Planet Hulk. And in this series, of course, Amadeus Cho has now gone to Sakaar and is kind of trying to be a champion of the people. He's trying to defend these people that are otherwise weak to those in power. And we get to see some really great action. And for those who have been reading Totally Awesome Hulk before the transition into Incredible Hulk, you know that Amadeus Cho is a pretty, laid-back kind of guy. He doesn't get into a fight without thinking it through. So here we actually get to see him really letting loose for the first time. They use a great analogy that I really like with the driver's seat, and they actually do a lot of references to it. And it's very cool, very natural, and it's a very good read. Greg Land has one of the most iconic runs on the Incredible Hulk over the years. He's just worked on him so many different times and in such great capacity. This book is totally worthwhile and definitely a great way of honoring the legacy, as it were, of Bruce Banner through Amadeus Cho. So pick it up if you haven't already. It's a really great classic Hulk vibe to it. Now, talking about your classic books, this is one of the oddities. This is like one of those, if you're looking at all the books that Marvel put out this month, this is the book that's going to have you scratching your head because you probably never heard of it. But we've got Not Brandak. So Not Brandak is an old school comedy book that Marvel put out like way back when, like 50 years ago, way back when, And it had Forbush Man. And Forbush Man was like a novelty character. It was silly. It was kind of like their tongue-in-cheek, making fun of themselves book. And that's what this book does in spades. It's an anthology book, so it's one issue. There's only one issue here. It's easy, and it's fun, and it's lighthearted, and has tons of jokes at the expense of everybody in the Marvel Universe. And it's not like, it's no holds barred. It's like they're actually really making fun of themselves. Like Nick Spencer writes a little book called Secret Empire over the summer, and he does a spoof of Secret Empire, making fun of the entire series, which I think is really great because it shows a lot of humility. It shows that Secret Empire wasn't for everybody, and Nick Spencer has a lot of fun at Captain America's expense, and I really appreciate that. And it also has, like, I won't tell you all the jokes because the jokes are great, but in that particular one, my favorite joke is that Secret Empire was originally supposed to be a 9-part series, and then they added the 10th issue. So they say, okay, well, we're going to summarize all of Secret Empire in 5 pages. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they go, ha, just kidding, there's an extra page, which I think is really cute because, of course, they added an issue to Secret Empire. Really fun. There's also, they make fun of a lot of cool stuff. Devil Dinosaur, Moon Girl. They make fun of Gwenpool in spades, which is kind of fantastic. Let me see if I can pull up that page. Making fun of her absurd popularity. And what's really great is that it's actually the Gwenpool creative team who's doing this. So it's Christopher Hastings and Guri Hurry. So really fun, really cool. If you want to laugh at Marvel, if you wish that they didn't take themselves so seriously, they're not. This exists, and it's very fun. Now, complete contrast. You want to talk about taking yourself seriously? Punisher 218 by Matt Rosenberg. Of course, Matt did a lovely signing with us last week to celebrate the book. And it is a really cool series. We're, of course, showing off the lenticular cover here by Tim Bradstreet, and I'll show off that interior. And no, you're not crazy. That is, in fact, the Punisher in the War Machine armor. That is the premise of the book. Frank Castle, War Machine, and you know, that's probably the last thing you ever want to do with the Punisher. If you guys have had a chance to check out, of course, the Punisher series did debut this weekend on Netflix. If you guys found your way, already worked through the entire series, and you want to check out something else, Matt is a true fan of Punisher. He'll tell you all about it because there's a whole letters page in the back where he just basically gushes about how much he loves Punisher. And it is a really great read. We get to see Punisher dealing with criminals in the way that only he can. This is not for kids. Not for kids. Clarifying, Punisher is pretty much never for kids, even though even Matt jokes about how he read Punisher as a child. But this is a great read for everybody at home above the legal age, because it's a lot of fun if you've got a twisted sense of humor, and it's really honors both the legacy of Punisher, of Frank Castle, but also the legacy of War Machine. You know, they don't lightly put him into the costume. There's a lot of dramatic weight and how he knows that this is Jim Rhodes' uniform. And I am expecting some big stuff from this book. I'm very excited and can't wait to see where it goes. And another cover, because there's lots of covers, and I like different covers. This one, of course, has a striking resemblance to John Bernthal, so pretty cool. Now, in a Matt Rosenberg double feature, it would seem, we've got Secret Warriors issue number 8 from Matt and Javier Garrón. Now, I love this homage cover because, of course, this is thrown back to some classic Steranko Shield stuff, and we'll see some cool art here from Dave Johnson on the cover. And I'm really enjoying Secret Warriors. So Secret Warriors, if you guys don't know, it is like the Inhumans team-up book. It's got a lot of these younger Inhumans characters, so it's got Miss Marvel, Moon Girl, but it's also got great characters like Quake and Karnak, who have been around for a little bit longer. And starting in this issue, I'm just going to, I mean, I don't know if this is a spoiler because it is advertised in some of the material. Where's the page? Where's the page? You can see right here, Magic has debuted in the pages of this book. Magic, of course, Ilyana Rasputin, one of the coolest X-Men that there is. Like, straight up, she has the power to go into hell, basically. Like, she goes into limbo, technically, but it's basically she's going to hell, and she's got this giant demonic soul sword, and it's awesome, and she's awesome, and it's really cool to see her playing here. As we get to see, as you can see from the cover, Mr. Sinister has emerged in this book, and if you guys know your X-Men history, you know that Mr. Sinister is nobody that you mess around with, because Mr. Sinister, he's always doing cloning, and he's always doing genetic manipulation and all this different stuff. I like X-Men The End. He gets some really cool spotlight in that book by Chris Claremont. And this is a great read. Javier Garrón's art is insanely detailed, and I don't know how he does it. We get some cool action sequences here with, of course, some of Mr. Sinister's nefarious, monster creations, basically. You know, he's doing some genetic manipulation, so they're probably not too happy about it either. Some patchy stuff here. Really cool, really great issue. This is one of my favorite books that Marvel has been putting out this year. It's so much fun, and it's really great, and it does all the characters justice. So if you want to read Secret Warriors, start here. Check it out. It's Mr. Sinister. You gotta love that. Now, moving on, we got a trifecta here, a trifecta of Spider-Man books. So we got all your different flavors of Spider-Man right here. First off, we got Amazing Spider-Man. That's right, simply amazing. From Dan Slott and Stuart Immonen. It's The Fall of Parker, Part 3. And Dan Slott has, of course, everybody knows who Dan Slott is in the world of Spider-Man at this point. Dan Slott has been doing Spider-Man for, he's been on him for over 150 issues, something like that, you know? And Stuart Immonen has some of the best art. Let's just show off. You know, it doesn't even have to be an action sequence because it's just the level of detail he brings to every page is crazy. This does read as a standalone issue. So if you haven't been reading the last couple parts, you can jump in. That's actually one of the favorite things that they're doing with this current storyline is every issue does stand on its own right. And we get to see that Peter, so if you guys were reading Spider-Man, there was Parker Industries. He was rich, he was famous, he was loved all the world around, gone. Everything has crumbled around him, hence fall of Parker. So now he's getting back into the swing of things, as it were, and we get to see him trying to be a better hero, trying to be a little bit more responsible as Peter Parker as well. And I always like that. I think the Dan Slott does a great job of showing how Peter tries to actually grow and mature as a person and not just as a hero. And there's some really cool stuff here. The art is gorgeous. Mockingbird plays a big part in this book, and I've been a big fan of Mockingbird for years, ever since Hawkeye and Mockingbird and New Avengers: The Reunion and the whole Dark Reign period did some really great stuff with her. And I really dig this series. And I can't show you everything. I'm flipping through. I've got a big, you know, at least that's a good quality assurance. I don't want to show you everything, but as I flip through the book, I'm happy. So that should at least tell you it's halfway decent. But it is really fun. Amazing Spider-Man's in good hands with Dan Slott and this gorgeous Alex Ross cover. I mean, can we just admire this? It's gorgeous. So, but maybe Peter's too much of a goody two shoes for you. You know, maybe you want something with a little bit more of an edge, just a little bit. Well, then we have Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. Now, this is great for all you 90s Spider-Man fans because, of course, Ben Reilly is the clone of Peter Parker. And he took up the mantle in the 90s briefly, and now he's been the Scarlet Spider for a while. He came back recently, and here we get to see the return of the Slingers, which is really great. So they've played a small role in the series up to this point, but of course they're taking center stage for this storyline, which I really like. I like Ricochet quite a bit, so I'm happy to see that popping back up. And there's some great art here. Peter David is writing it, and Will Sliney on art, who is fantastic. He's really doing some cool stuff here, and we're building up a great mystery and a cool antagonist. Of course, his life has kind of been tough lately because unlike Peter, who is based out of New York, he was based out of Las Vegas. So Secret Empire kind of did him dirty, you know, made things a little tough for him because of course Las Vegas got largely devastated in the events of that book. And so there's some great stuff going on here, and it's got a really cool last page thing that I can't show you because it's the last page and you got to read it, but it's awesome. I'll just show you off some more cool pages. Really cool book, really great stuff. If you're a 90s Spider-Man fan, or maybe you're just sick of seeing Peter all the time, but you like the power set, check out Scarlet Spider. It's got a bit more edge to it, and it is very good because Peter David, and Peter David is definitely a knowledgeable source on Spider-Man. Now, for our third book in the trifecta, we've got Spectacular Spider-Man, issue 297. That is right, 297 issues. You know, it seems like just a couple weeks ago that it was issue 5. And this is some really fun stuff. Chip Zdarsky is doing a great job with Adam Kubert on art. And you'll see Spider-Man behind bars. If you've been reading, you know. Okay. So last issue of Spectacular Spider-Man got a lot of buzz because it had a really important conversation between J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man. And I want to talk more about the details of this issue, but it will spoil some of what happens in that issue. So if you are a Spectacular Spider-Man fan and you didn't read last issue, pick it up and then now listen again. So Spider-Man revealed his identity to J. Jonah Jameson last issue. And that is crazy. That is a monumental development in their relationship because obviously some real talk here. So a few years back they did Civil War, and in Civil War, of course, Spider-Man reveals his identity to the world, right? And if you guys remember, in Civil War, J. Jonah Jameson basically has a heart attack when he finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. This guy who's been working for him since he was like 16 years old is actually the guy that he's been, you know, antagonizing in the newspaper his entire life. So that wasn't a very intimate reveal. This is a completely different thing. And of course, things have changed since then. Brand new day, one more day, you know, the devil, it happens. But this is great. It's really cool and it's really intimate. And this book is definitely worthwhile. It is It's a fantastic read. Chip Zdarsky has such a clever way of writing Spider-Man, where he really understands his voice, and Adam Kubert's art, even when it's something like this, even when it's really lingering in the shadows for a lot of the issue, it really plays to his strengths. He really directs the action incredibly well, and it makes it seem effortless, and I really appreciate that. We, of course, see that the police are hunting down Spider-Man, but they're more so hunting down Peter Parker because, and this is one of those things that this is what I really like about Marvel Legacy. It's really pulling all these plot threads that have been building in different books over the years and uniting them under one storyline. So if you guys read a couple years ago, it was revealed that Peter Parker has a sister. And there's some controversy, and it's not actually quite his sister, and it's more to it than that. But still, bringing her into this book has given this book a lot of unique life. And now we get to see that Peter Parker is on the run because of his sister, who is wanted by S.H.I.E.L.D. And there's some great stuff going on here. And I'm really enjoying this book. This is, I do really like the different Spider-Man books, but this is probably my favorite Spider-Man book right now. And I think that's because Chip Zdarsky just really understands how to write Peter Parker. Because Chip Zdarsky is kind of a weird dude in the best way possible, where he's weird and quirky. And that's kind of like Spider-Man, who's weird and quirky. So pick it up. It's spectacular as it is. Now, moving on, we have Mighty Thor, issue 701. And this issue, more than any other issue I've talked about, well, except for Not Brand Deck, which is a straight-up one-shot. This is completely standalone. So if you are not a Thor reader and you are looking to jump in, this is your opportunity. It's a regular-sized issue. You know, last issue was, of course, a giant anniversary issue for 701, so there was a lot of story. And here we get to follow the War Thor as he faces off against Mangog. And this is the kind of stuff that I really love because it is an entire issue about the relationship of Thor and the world and the 9 realms, well, 10 realms as it were now. And we get to see James Herron on art, who, if you ever read Rumble, his art is crazy. And getting to see him draw this giant cataclysmic fight between the Mangog, who is literally the guy who goes around destroying gods, and the War Thor, who is a character near and dear to my heart, who I've always really enjoyed over the years, and I'm really enjoying this status quo. This book is really great. It has some dire consequences for the characters within, and honestly, it makes me insanely excited for what's going to be going on in the future of this book, because it leads to some crazy developments and just builds the status quo very naturally. So we don't actually get a whole lot of Jane Foster in this issue, but I don't think the book is hurt by that at all. In fact, I think it makes this book stronger because we get to focus our conflict on War Thor, who has been built up these last few months so much. And now getting to see this conflict, getting to see this crazy, crazy battle. And I just really enjoyed this. This was a really fantastic read. Jason Aaron has been on Thor for about 5 years now, and he's done some amazing stuff. And what he's doing right now might be some of the strongest work that he has done. And it's definitely some of the most approachable. So if you want to jump in on the book, this is your chance. Mighty Thor 701, I really recommend it. It's really fantastic. And then to close us off, we have the closing chapter of Mojo Worldwide in X-Men Blue, issue 15. So X-Men Blue has been a lot of fun. Cullen Bunn has been doing a great job. Jorge Molina on art. You guys have heard me talk about them a little bit before. If you haven't, go back, watch our old videos because I talk about them every week, basically. Not every week, but a lot. And I really actually like what they've done with this book. It is a crossover between the X-Men Gold and the X-Men Blue series, and so we get to see the X-Men in full force. And there's so many X-Men. It's so rare for us to really get to see the true might of this team in full force, and I really appreciate it here. Some great art complementing a really cool story, which has put one of my least favorite villains ever into the spotlight and is making me like him a little bit, which I hate, but it's cool when you like the book, so that makes me happy. It is a really good read. Cullen Bunn has a good voice on these characters. I'm really enjoying the introduction of a couple of these characters who are a little bit newer to the franchise in relation. I really like the way that Jimmy Hudson has been used. And we get to see some cool stuff with Danger and Polaris and Magneto. And I'm a big fan of Danger and Polaris, so I really like seeing them here. They did all new X Factor a couple years ago, and they really did a great. Peter David wrote it. It was really fantastic. Read it. If it says Peter David, it's probably pretty good. Some really cool stuff here. And this is, in fact, the conclusion to Mojo Worldwide. So it's a 6-part story. 6 parts have come out, and 6 parts of it were fantastic. I've really enjoyed this story, and it has actually made me, this is the most I've ever enjoyed Mojo ever, like in any comic ever. This is probably my favorite stuff with him. And it's really cool. It's a really great read. It's got all the X-Men, and it's definitely worth your time. So, and that's it. That's the week. That was 13 books. Amazing. Just like that. But there really are some cool books here, but they're different flavors. You know, I've mentioned it before. I'm not going to tell you that every single book is for you because I think that's unrealistic. You know, maybe you're a completionist. Maybe you're like me, and you do like the wealth, but maybe you want more of a niche feel. So if you want something that's got the fantastical in it, check out Doctor Strange 381. Really cool stuff. Donny Cates makes his Marvel debut on this, and it is amazing. And like I said, it's a new writer. It's a new direction for the book. So that means it is easy for you to get into. If you've never read Doctor Strange, if you like the Thor movies, pick this up because you get a lot of Loki, you get a lot of Doctor Strange, and you get a lot of really good stuff. Or you can pick up Thor issue 701, which is also fantastic. So really cool if you want your magic, if you want some big epic scale stuff. Really enjoy both those books. If you want something that's a little bit more quiet and intimate, I'm going to actually, there's a part of me that wants to say Champions because there's some really good intimate character work here, but it's actually going to go to my boy Punisher because this is a character study. You know, we get to see Punisher in relation to Nick Fury, but we also get to see just the way that he works and operates and the way that he sees the world. And it is, of course, very topical with the Punisher series just debuting now on Netflix over the weekend. So if you want to check out more Punisher, Matt Rosenberg knows how the character works, and he's doing a great job. Even though, you know, the status quo might sound kind of crazy to a lot of people. You know, War Machine armor, like what's he doing with the War Machine armor? Check it out. Read the book. It is really worthwhile, and they do handle it with the appropriate gravitas. And then, of course, you know, if you want to get your Spider fix, there's a whole slew. I'm a big fan of what they're doing on Spectacular Spider-Man. If you want something that's big, crazy, weird concept stuff, Guardians of the Galaxy is great. If you want to make fun of Marvel, if you think that they're all silly and they've got silly ideas, Not Brandak agrees with you and also thinks that they're silly and has silly ideas. And it's really great. So there's a lot of books to enjoy. I'm really happy with the way Marvel Legacy is turning out so far. And hopefully you guys will swing by, check out some of the cool books. We've got brand new Marvel Legacy books this Wednesday. And enjoy.